Flat rate shop, baby. I know, right? Like he doesn't.
The lowest margin jobs
Are big jobs.
Are big jobs 100% of the time. In this episode, Lucas and I watch a video on starting an auto repair shop. What do we think they got right, and what do we think they got wrong? Watch and find out. I can tell you already, the shop is using the wrong shop management system. This video is brought to you by Shop-Ware. It's the shop management system that I use. It's the shop management system Lucas uses. We absolutely love it, and if you click on the link in the description, then you can get a demo for yourself. And we think that you will love it just as much as we do. And if you don't, well, I don't know what to tell you. You probably put ranch dressing on all your food, in which case, there is no help for you. So a huge thank you to Shop-Ware, and now onto the video.
Would you like to run an auto repair shop like this one? Well, today we're talking to Lucky Singh himself. He opened up Lucky Auto Shop back in 2016 and managed to grow its revenue past $40,000 a month. Is it luck? Hey, Lucky, can you please get me dough? What's one thing you think they should do to set themselves up for success?
Our marketing is pretty creative. We kind of think outside the box.
Share more.
I think it's kind of a skill to get somebody to spend that much money with you.
What I was taught by an accountant is you always want to try to be as close to zero profit as possible.
Oh, that
Here you go,
hurts.
sir. I'll let you take
All
it from
right.
here.
We'll usually lift it up on jacks and check your suspension. Yeah, you usually don't want to see grease on there, so.
Huh. I like how you're not guessing and actually going to give us the real deal numbers, so that's pretty cool.
Hey, which shop management
It's not
system is
about
that,
luck.
David?
Today he's going to
Good old Mitchell 1. You know, back in the day when I first opened my shop, Mitchell 1, I think on that particular chart, adds your sales tax into your
Yeah.
total sales number. And
Yep.
so I was taking that number and I was paying sales tax on that number.
Double that bad
So
boy up.
yeah, so it was
Uncle
an
Sam got
additional
his.
whatever. Well, it was to the state. It was sales tax. So
What was your reaction when you found out?
it went on for like a year. And then I'm looking, I was in like one other report and this, that, and the other, and I looked at it and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I'm not doing that much. And I call the state guy and I go, hey, I've probably overpaid my sales taxes for a year. And I'm doing like $15,000 a month at this point,
Right.
right? And he's like,
thank you.
he's like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you about that. We'd have to like do an audit and we can see about getting you a refund. But I don't know. I don't know if we can do that or not. And I'm like, and at this point, you know, an extra $1,000 a month will make or break you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you're living by pennies. And so, yeah, so I remember seeing that. So when I see that report or I see a shop pull up that report, I'm like, oh, no.
That's bad news, Bubba. Bad news.
You're starting off on the wrong foot here.
You must be lucky.
I am lucky, man.
You have the Lucky Speed Shop, you have Lucky right here, and I'm lucky today to give you guys this insight on how to run, start, and operate a successful automotive shop, right? Are you excited to do this?
Of course, man.
Tell us a little bit about how you got into the automotive repair industry and why did you start and when?
So I was always tinkering with
What is
stuff
that
growing up,
abomination
and,
behind them?
that path kinda
I don't
led
know,
me
it's
to
ugly,
cars,
isn't it?
you know, when you're a
I'm driving
teenager,
through
16 years
Colorado. I
old,
saw
you
one.
love cars.
It's just
Did you
Really?
always like to
cruising
mess
down the
around
road.
with
Yeah.
cars specifically?
And I'm like,
Man,
what the hell is
I've had
that?
friends that wanted to fix up things.
What
Do you know what it
I-
is?
No, I don't have
You
one.
know, that path
It's kind of
kept
electric
pushing me
truck, I
towards
don't know.
that, and
Right.
then,
I don't know. It's
eventually
ugly.
I ended up
I mean,
going to
I-
tech school.
How do you, how'd this guy find this shop?
I don't know. I don't have a clue.
Would you?
It doesn't tell anywhere.
So this is, I don't know what kind of channel this is, UpFlip, but would you, it's very nice editing, by the way. The
Yeah,
intro
they
was
do
cool.
hey, they've got a lot of subscribers and followers and looks pretty nice. Yeah. I don't exactly.
I'm just
appreciate
curious.
some of the things
I'm
said,
just
but-
curious how they found this shop. And then the shop owner's like, heck yeah, do an entire video on my shop. and talk about how successful I am doing $40,000 a month. Like, this is going to be
That
great.
that stung a little bit, right?
What do you mean?
Let's keep watching because you're going to see why that stung a little bit.
All right. I haven't seen this, by the way, and I guess you have.
Dude, I had to skip.
So I started this business about 7 years ago.
Wow, okay.
But I also worked at a dealership for a few years. I worked at Northwest Honda for a few years, and then I worked for another company for a few more years. You know, so I gained kind of the knowledge before I just jumped in. So started with just me and another guy running the shop, and now there's 4 of us total.
How common does this story sound?
This
Right?
This is everybody.
This is every single shop, right? Like it's playing out perfectly.
Not
like,
mine, by the way, but everybody else's.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's fairly similar, right? Some of us don't go to tech school, some do, but it all started as a passion for working on cars, right? Like that's where it all came from for all of us in a lot of ways. Not you. You're just an abomination of a human being, but you know, I mean,
I liked the idea of working on cars. That was cool.
Right?
Not actually.
You actually had to do it, and then it was
it's awful.
Like
this is the worst thing ever.
Yeah, and as you've stated before, you're a wee bit unemployable. Well,
that's why I opened the business, because you're unemployable. You're like, well, what am I going to do? I got to start a business. It was either this or a chili truck. I should have
chili truck. I
was going to do a chili truck. I was going to.
You would have probably had better luck. You would have been you would have had to get the wide body to be able to fit up and down the aisle by now. You would have eaten...
No. My chili's healthy. It's healthy chili.
You would have eaten up all the profits, literally.
You got the shop here, right?
Yeah.
And then, do you live and work in the same place?
This is also my residence.
Man.
Yeah, which is kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Right. But you're never late to work, right? Because he's only, a couple steps away?
I counted it. It's 12 steps. I'm on the 12-step program.
Lucky, let's talk about the services that you offer. I know there may be a lot, but why don't we hone in on maybe the top 3?
Okay.
And which ones have the highest and lowest margins, and maybe why?
You know, we do anything from oil changes all the way up to engine swaps and everything in between. Mm-hmm. I would say the highest margins would be on major jobs if we're doing an engine replacement.
Engine swap would be the
like
highest
a replacement. Yeah.
Flat rate shop, baby. I know, right? Like he does.
The lowest margin jobs
are big jobs.
100% of the time.
Yep.
You do not make money doing engine swaps. That is insane. Unless they're Subarus. Hold on now. Unless they're Subarus. Because you get fast enough on a Subaru.
Yeah,
you can
absolutely.
get that engine pulled out and back in about 3 hours. And it pays like $7 or whatever.
But let's look at total margin though, right? Like I like to look at it like that car has a margin in my shop. And so we put an engine in it and then it comes back in a couple weeks and it's got this little sound. We put an engine in it and then it does this. We put an engine in it and then it does that, right? Like overall, that margin is much lower because we spend a lot of time with it if you count all the time that's invested in a car like that. Right. So the other thing is that what I've found, and I'm sure you see this too, I used to do it, and that's how I know about it, is that you do the small jobs, the brake jobs, and like, man, I got to be competitive. Like these brake jobs, like it doesn't take me that long, so I'll just charge an hour, and I got to be competitive, so I'm going to bring that part margin down a little bit. You know, and so the job that's supposed to make money in the shop, you're not charging enough for. And the big job, you're like, man, that's a lot of money. I can't charge quite that much. So you bring it back. And the next thing you know, you don't have margins in anything.
Yeah. And you can't do, if you're running a matrix, by the time you're buying a $3,000, $4,000 engine, like there's only so much markup on that particular item. And so the percentage isn't there. You don't necessarily make it up on any additional parts that you install. You don't make it up on the labor. And so overall, the whole job is, instead of running at 60, 65%, you're very much in the 40 to 50% range. The dollar amount's higher. The percentage is all off. And I'm sorry, your gross profit per hour on that job is not enough. Because you're right. It's not just the R&R time. It's the R&R time plus the first test drive, second test drive. Make sure the readiness monitors are all up. Make sure that you don't have any additional leaks. Make sure something that you didn't intend on replacing, but you touched it now is causing a problem. There's so much that goes in that job, so much that can go wrong. And yeah, it does extend out that time. And you can pad it, but you can only pad it you pad it to try to capture the 70 to 80% little BS items that come up.
Yep.
You don't pad it for the outliers. That one time where everything goes sideways and you're stuck on it double or triple time, and you're like,
or it turns around and comes back in 2 days, and now we got to spend a day with it, and then a few weeks later it comes back because it came back once, and they think the same problem again, and now it just happens over and over.
And I'm sorry, it's a psychological thing for customers. Yeah. They are dropping $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 on this vehicle.
They expect a new car.
They expect a brand new car. That rattle that's always been there, all of a sudden is ever since you guys touched it, there's a rattle in the back. Dude, that's been there forever. So the car needs to feel and drive like brand new, even though all you did was put a transmission in it. I'm sorry, look, it shifts now. It wasn't shifting before. You have reverse now. You didn't have reverse before, and it was $6,000, but you didn't get a new car. Like, that engine still has no power going up a hill. I'm sorry.
Look, everybody thinks that the 300% rule, when we talk about it, is about selling something. Dude, it's got nothing to do with selling something for me. It's about educating the client for me. And so, like, when I pick up this piece of paper and I say, Mr. Client, or the DVI, Mr. Client, I completely understand that noise is there. But if you see here, we discussed that here. You decline correcting that at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a different conversation than, well, I don't think it was making that noise when it came in. You're talking about a completely different conversation. That's where it's important to educate your client as a professional.
You can tell the person's lack of knowledge by what they said. Like, immediately it would have been like, well, percentage-wise, we do pretty good on R&R for steering and suspension components.
Yeah, brake jobs, baby. Brake jobs.
Well, not even brake jobs. Like, brake jobs are okay, but you get a brake job with tie rod ends and an alignment and struts, like, you're going to make really good percentage on that. But gross profit dollars per build hour, it's hard to beat tires.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to make a chunk on
everybody
tires.
hates doing tires. I don't understand it. The tires are where the big money's at, right? Like, you can make good money in a set of tires.
You can make good money, but you have to, the tires you have to turn that bay quickly. But you can build an entire business doing that. Just discount tire. That's how they make money.
Yep.
They're selling it at a discount. Charging almost nothing to install these tires. How do they make money? Well, they're just turning that bay quicker than everybody else.
Yep.
And so the guy should have explained it like that, but he didn't. He went to we do everything from oil changes to engine swaps. It's like, okay, I do everything from oil changes to CAN bus diagnostics. I do everything from oil changes to EEPROM work. You see what I'm saying? Like, that would have been a better reflection of your skill level rather than, I can swap in big parts and little parts.
Exactly.
A lot of people can do that, dude.
When we talk about other shops and we review a video like this, I always, like, part of me is really afraid that they hear it and they're like, oh man, that was so mean of them to say that. This is a situation where I don't feel that way. I really hope that he hears this video, because this is the same thing, right? These things that are being said in this video are the same things that we've seen put shop after shop after shop out of business, right? That the owner has eventually got to the point that, like, I can't sustain this anymore. I can't do this. And so while I know that hearing this might hurt dude's feelings a little bit, I'm sorry. I think he needs to hear it, right? Like, it's not us saying we're experts. It's just the reality is there's a better way to do this that will truly generate profit.
It's not even about being experts. It's like, you're making a mistake because we have made those mistakes, and we saw that we've now realized that we've made those mistakes, and all you're doing is getting out on this fairly popular YouTube channel on a video that's got almost 200,000 views talking about, this is how I operate. Those are all mistakes.
Exactly.
All of it.
And you're informing other people of how to make the same mistake.
You're telling them, exactly. And all you're doing is casting a certain light on the industry. And we're trying to change that, because that's not reality.
Yeah, if our guys make good time on it, then the profit margins are pretty high.
Is it all time-based, even for that big of a job?
Yeah, so when we quote, jobs are all based on the hours they take.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we use a software program that kind of gives us a ballpark idea of what an engine replacement typically.
Hey, I've got a beef with something right here. I've
Dude, we are
got
3 minutes in, and what are you doing?
quote. Okay. What's the difference between quote and estimate, David?
Estimate is likely to change.
What's
A
a quote?
probably shouldn't.
Exactly. You need to know the difference between those two words. They're not the same. Keep going. Sorry.
Language matters.
It
Unless, you know,
does.
you take the random words and you decide you're just going to change them arbitrarily because you
I'm
need
going
to
to give
fit
you a
a certain
bid.
narrative.
I'm going to give you a quote. Oh, boys. It's a whole lot different than an estimate.
Marketing strategies. What are you doing to market your business, and what's giving you the best return on investment?
Our marketing is pretty creative. We kind of think outside the box.
Share more.
So we got these box trucks that I came across, and we put huge logos on them, and we're parking them at different locations in the county. So
Just an empty trailer park?
it's just an empty truck. Yeah, they're about 14 feet long in the back and 12 feet high. They're just giant banners, and they drive.
Do you have to have permission to park it somewhere?
Yeah, definitely. You definitely have to have permission to wherever you're parking them.
And you feel like that's giving you a good return?
It's huge.
How,
I mean,
how are you tracking it?
When people do the initial intake, when they come to us, we'll ask them how they found us, and yeah, the trucks are pretty huge.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
So it obviously has an upfront cost, but then
Oh, yeah.
continuing on, do you pay people where you park, or just...
Typically not. I mean,
Wow.
a lot of the places where I'm parking, I get permission from the owners or the businesses, and typically I'm doing business with the people that I'm parking the truck at their location. I typically do business with them,
Yeah.
so it's kind of a trade-off. It's like a win-win.
That makes sense.
I just want to point this out here. I'm talking to the shop owner, super nice guy, and he's in a college town in the South. And he's struggling with marketing and getting business in the door and this, that, and the other. And, we're going through, like, what can you do? What can you afford? Let's talk about Google ads. Let's talk about Facebook ads. And I look up his shop. He has a nice shop in a cherry location. Like,
Right.
10,000 cars driving by there every couple hours. He's got a great opportunity. No sign. And I'm
What?
like, dude, where's your sign? And he's like, yeah, so the county won't let me, and this, that, and the other. He starts getting into all those logistics, right? And I understand, totally understand. And I'm like, dude, put a giant sign in the back of the pickup truck and park the pickup truck in front
Yeah.
of the building.
There you
And
go.
he's like, huh. I'm like, yeah, huh. Like, get one of those. And I told him to get, have you ever seen the pickup trucks or the big box trucks that have the ads on the
Yeah.
back of them and they drive
Yeah.
around through the city?
I have.
I'm like, get something like that and just park it in front of the building. And yeah, it's not a sign for the business or a sign that's part of the business building and all that. So you don't need
It's
a
one of our
permit.
fleet trucks.
It's just a vehicle. Yeah, it just happens to have the phone number, the name of the business, and our whatever, our differentiator, our USP. It's on there. So what? They're not going to bother you about it. Just do that for the meantime. He ended up, I think, putting something on the side of his pickup truck and parking it out front anyway. So that is pretty creative. I'll give him
Yeah,
that.
I agree.
For somebody watching, right, Lucky, and wants to get into the same industry,
Yeah.
how do they gain the necessary skills to get going on their own?
I'd say if if you enjoy tinkering with stuff, just keep pushing the boundary. If you get an opportunity where somebody needs help with something and you kind of get excited over it, I'd say take that opportunity and try to figure it out. I mean, there's so many resources. You got YouTube, you got
Right.
repair manuals, you got so much knowledge out there that eventually, if you're not old enough to go to the tech school or go to an official place where they train you, I'd say start young.
The problem is what he's focusing on is working on the car, right? He sounds like a technician. He's focusing on how to fix the car. He's focusing on the work that the business does, not the work of owning the business, right? And so the guy asked him, if somebody wanted to do something like this, how would you do it? Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to get some business acumen and education, right? Like, you need to understand what is net profit, what is gross profit. You need to understand the difference between markup and margin. You need to understand some common numbers. What should my rent be as a percentage of my income? What should my warranty be as a percentage of my income? How do I track those things? Where are the numbers supposed to be? Right?
What he
That's
should have
what I
said
would
was, do you want to run a business or do you want to work on cars?
Yeah, exactly.
How much did the tech school help? Or let's say I can't go to tech school. You worked for the other dealers. How much did that help you get to where you are today?
Oh, quite a bit.
Is that necessary?
So in this industry, you learn the most by doing, you know? So, I mean, you can watch all the videos in the world, but if you don't actually go and do it, you're not going to learn anything. So going to the tech school really, really helped me out quite a bit because it honed the fundamentals, you know, like electronics, voltage, that kind of thing. So that really stepped my game up. Because before, yeah, I tinkered with stuff, but it was just, you know, taking bolts off and putting bolts on, and it's not that hard to me. But as far as the fundamentals, yeah, you definitely probably want to go to a school so you got all your, you know, the electrical fundamentals. That's probably the hardest part, and especially where the industry's going now, everything's going electric. So you want to have a good foundation, you know, on exactly what you're working on.
Everything's not going electric. Everything's been electric for 25, 30 years. What is he talking about?
And I would much rather you go buy a Scanner Danner book as I would you
go buy the Scanner Danner Premium. Yeah, like come on, man. Like I don't care that you went to Lincoln Tech or one of those WyoTech. Is WyoTech still around?
More of a chance
UTI.
that you don't get hired at my shop. Like if you come in, and you're like, man, I went to NASCAR Tech. Oh man, I'm really sorry, but I tell you,
whatever. What if they went to Wake Tech? School is that's legit. Like that's a legit school. But if that's the only thing you bring to the table, as opposed to, hey, I've been working at the Walmart lube place or at Valvoline or one of those places like that, but I work on the side, and you know, I've gone through Scanner Danner's entire program. Yep. I'm a premium member. I'm on there all the time. I'm using the lab scope. Here's some videos. Here's this. Here's, you know, and you start talking about that and you see their excitement level about the more difficult aspects of automotive repair. Like, yeah, you're going to hire that person on the spot, even though they didn't go to some prominent school. If that's all they did and they show up, it's like, dude, I'm starting from scratch with you. I'm sorry. Like the only thing, what was it that dude said? The only thing we're really teaching you is how to not kill yourself working on cars in the shop. Yep. That's it. It's like, okay, great. You're not going to kill yourself, but you're not going to be turning hours for me. That's not going to be a thing.
Hey, and I've got a comment right here. The videographer for this channel did a fantastic job. I don't know.
It's so good. Did you see them panning from left to right as they're talking to each other? Like, visually, it's like, okay, that's keeping me engaged. Even though the content's boring
the crispy,
AF.
Beautiful shots with the bokeh in the right spot, man. This is an epic video. Whoever shot it is dude, they are a full-blown expert.
Yeah.
What were the startup costs? I mean, besides buying the property that we're at now.
So I'd say startup costs with the business as far as a lease, the tools, the lifts, all that kind of stuff. This might be a low estimate. 20 grand would be. That's it. That's what it took me.
Right.
But I'm also on my own property.
Probably double that these days with what the prices
with
are.
Inflation and COVID and everything. Yeah, I would say, with the housing market the way it is.
With inflation, that's what did it. Hey, how much are you into it at this point, Lucas?
Let's see. We're 1 point something. And that's not a fair comparison, I don't think. When you look at that shop and you look at what we're doing, I get that. That's not a fair comparison. But,
okay, cut down your shop in half.
Yeah, but I mean, just the tools, right? Just the tools. He says 20,000. Yeah, I mean, if all your techs have tools, maybe. But dude, insurance, everything else, and let's say you go into a building and you say, look, I want to insure the building. I want to insure the contents. Right? The insurance company comes in and says, hey, look, you got to do some things. The fire marshal comes in and says, hey, look, you got to do some things. That's not landlord responsibility in a lot of cases.
That's never landlord responsibility. You're on your own.
That alone gets you over $20,000, right? That
20,000 is not enough. 20,000. That'll get you one, maybe two lifts and a skin tool.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is we talk a lot about the barrier of entry. The problem is you could come in and start working on cars with $50. It doesn't mean that you're capable of doing the job. Right? It doesn't mean that you're able to do it. And he says, well, maybe it's a low estimate because of inflation. Maybe it's a low estimate because I own my own property. Nah, dude. It's low just to be able to put you could put wood cabinets in, buy one scan tool, one lift, and enough hand tools to do it, and you are over $20,000 to be able to do the basic repairs on automobiles today. Easy.
Basic repairs, yeah.
Yeah, with just one tech, you're easily $40,000.
And only on certain vehicles. I'll give you a perfect example is you get a Volkswagen, late model Volkswagen that comes in with a brake caliper that's hung up. Now you're thinking you're just doing a brake job. Well, now you need to replace the caliper. Well, you take the caliper off, put it back on. What do you have to do next? You got to bleed the brakes. Well, guess what? You have to have 2-bar pressure at the master cylinder to bleed the brakes on that vehicle.
Yep.
You don't have anything to create 2-bar
machine,
pressure. Yeah. So now it's a $5,000 machine to do this one brake job that you took on that you had no business touching. You have no idea. Yep. So now, really, if you're going to do it honestly, you're going to have a lot of vehicles coming in for inspection. Some of them you're not going to be able to do, and you're going to have to tell them, hey, I can't do this job. I don't have the equipment.
That one
you
AC
need to go
condenser,
somewhere else.
You'll connect to this, that one AC condenser that you start taking the radiator out, and it's got the condenser in or transmission cooler. I can't remember what it was. Like, you take one out, and that is a $7,000 machine. There's no way around it, and I've already taken everything off of it, right? Like, I've taken the job. I've already got the parts. I've already got the car apart. Like, oh, hang on, I got to put it back together. Here's your car back. I can't fix it.
Wow, what the crap.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? And so you go buy the machine.
Yeah, I can't remember which one that was. So we had a Fiat that came in. This was before COVID. We had a Fiat come in. It needed radiator fans, and to do the job, I think we had to pull the AC out. The refrigerant had to come out. And it was 1234. And we're like, okay, well, we don't have the machine. We don't have the capability. So we had to turn the car back to the customer and say, I'm sorry, we can't do it. Now, the next one that we did, we thought it was 134. My tech tells me it's 134. We start the work. My tech looks down and he's like, hey, it's not 134. Well, at that point, I'm already into it. And I'm like, screw it. I'm buying this machine. I don't want this to happen again. And we've used our machine quite a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, you should be making that investment, but that's a perfect example. Like there's some years that are just either or, right?
Yeah.
You don't know.
So
you don't know. And so the customer comes in, you're thinking, yeah, I'm going to be able to service this. And you look down, you're like, hey man, I can't service this properly.
Yeah. The battery dies and you've got to program a car. The list is endless of ways this can happen.
You buy a scan tool. This is because we were talking with Kent last night and we're doing a starter on an 18 Camry, okay? Well, what do you have to do when you do a starter? You have to take the battery out. Well, and when you disconnect the battery, there are 2 calibrations that have to be done upon hooking the battery back up. Now, if you're working at the parts store, if you're working at Walmart, you have no access to the scan tool, right? And so the ADAS isn't going to work properly. The traction tool is going to be going bananas. Who knows? The car may not even steer because it's electric power steering, right? And it doesn't know the position of the steering. So it may not even work. You might have to tow it out of there after you install the battery. Just disconnecting the battery and hooking it back up. The SI was, hey, you have to do A and you have to do B. And so an honest shop is going to look at service information and then realize I don't have the equipment or my scan tool doesn't have the capabilities in order to do this calibration. Or this is definitely something that happens. It says it'll do the calibration. You hook it up to the damn car, and it will not do the calibration. Now what do? You bought this scan tool. You think you're covered. You take the job. You've already disconnected it, and now you're screwed. Why? Because you don't have scan tool number 2 or scan tool number 3 to try it on. And you don't have the J-box as a backup to the backup to the backup just in case. You don't have any of that. Why? Because you started out $20,000. What is he talking about?
Yeah, $40,000 won't touch it. To be honest with you, one tech, basic repairs on older vehicles, maybe $40,000 would cut it, but I doubt it. No, I don't.
Mid-2000s and older, and that's about it. And yeah, you're not. There's going to be a lot of.
It's a per tech number for me. I think.
Really, you think?
I think so.
Per bay, it'd have to be because you're starting with nothing. So
yeah, if you're starting from nothing, I think $40,000 per tech would be the bare minimum.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to sit down and do the calculation because You're thinking, I just need a lift, air compressor, maybe some hand tools, some electric tools, and a scan tool. Like you just need A, B, and C, and you're thinking in your head that's going to be enough. And then the jobs start coming in. Like when you're starting early on, you can't say no to a lot of stuff. And unfortunately, that's when you have to say no, because you're taking on a lot of work that you have no business touching, and you don't have the capital and you don't have the wherewithal, the capital to then all of a sudden say, you know what, I'm going to go down and buy that 1234 YF machine right now because I need it for this job, and that's $6,000-$7,000,
right? The parts vendor is not willing to front you that, and so you don't have the credit to do it. You're really backed into a corner where you've got to work around some of this stuff. And here's the other thing: is it's not as simple. I remember when I started out, I used to go buy a piece of equipment and say, hey, I just have to do this many services to pay for it. If I'm charging $129.95 for an alignment, I have to do this many services. That's not how you do a break even. That's not how you do a return on investment. You need to figure some gross margin in there because there's a cost associated with it. And the next thing you know, what you thought was a $60,000 machine, you really need $160,000 by the time you figure all of the true cost associated with it to pay for it. But nobody tells you that when you're starting out, right? Like to get that money back takes a lot of revenue.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely. But I think what would be interesting to find out is where the capital came from. So you guys keep watching to find out where Lucky got the capital, the $20,000 to get going. So stay tuned. Well, Lucky, why don't we switch gears here? I actually have stuff to do on the Jeep, so let me, I'm pretending to be a customer today, right?
All right.
So let's say I walked in and I need an oil change and my brakes squeak. So
basically, we take your information, we put it into our system. Rich will delegate. He'll delegate, your vehicle to one of the necessary techs. So if you look at this area here, this is our workflow.
Right.
So if you brought in a car, you would end up at
waiting for tech.
Customer waiting.
Okay.
Those are our two techs there.
Mm-hmm.
And then
that's an angry looking dude. I'm sorry. That's an angry looking dude.
They would take it.
I gotta have smiley people up front. You gotta have.
I know, right? Like as angry as you look, they've got to make up for it.
No, I put it on the front. Are you kidding me? I'm like, hi, hey, how you doing? I love you. Let's hug it out. But it's exhausting because by the end of the day, you want to murder somebody, and that you don't want to leave that for your family. You get home and they're like, don't talk to me. Nobody touch me. Like, no,
right.
It's exhausting.
But you're just a bitter human being, though.
I'm not like you, Lucas. I don't like talking to people. Sorry, I don't.
You don't even like people, bro.
I feel like your business is not going to thrive as much versus if you hire guys that got your back and are willing to put in the extra work, the extra hours, and you got to have their back as well too. It's not just the one-way thing.
So it just comes down to having the right personnel. You're thinking that can set you up for success. That's a big one.
That's very important. I think that gets overlooked a lot. We might have the nicest stuff, we might have the newest technology, but if you guys don't know how to use it or aren't comfortable with being in the position they're in, I think that can set you up for failure because you can throw money at things and I think they can fail.
Right.
Have you ever seen Gary Vee talking to the guy who is talking about struggling finding people for his business?
No, I've not.
And he's like, I'll have to find the video and send it to you. But he's talking to this guy, and the guy's talking about how, man, I cannot find good people. And we go through people just constantly. And Gary Vee calls him out and says, it's because you're expecting way too much from your people. You want them to work the way you work. You want them to try and be as invested. They will never be that bought in. It is your business. You're bought in because it's yours. Yeah. They're just an employee. Yeah. You can't expect that from them because that's not what they're not wired that way.
And you notice something he said that kind of triggered me a little bit, and it was that they'll work those extra hours, right? Like I'm a firm believer. You've heard me say this a million times. I believe an auto repair shop, the job of the auto repair shop is to make as much profit as you can in 40 hours, not to work 60 and 70 hours and fix all the cars. And what he's saying right there is I need them to work more hours so we can get that client's car out the door. Your lack of planning is not my emergency.
But sometimes it's because you need the money.
It is.
Like you need the money.
That's part of it. That's very, very, very much part of it. But in the same respect, we talk about people coming up and knocking on your door. Like Is that your expectation of me? Are you expecting me to drop everything I'm doing and serve you? And maybe it's that we make a service that's more expensive for an emergency service, right? Like there's people that do that, and I understand that. But the reality is if you allow people to dictate your schedule, they will forever dictate your schedule. They will forever expect you to work longer hours. They will forever expect you to serve them when they want to be served. And it's not wrong of them to do that because you didn't set the expectation that was unacceptable. Here's what I offer, right? And I think that's where so many business owners miss it. It's not about the customer expects this of me, so I have to do it. No, Mr. Client, I am the business owner, and here is the list of confines of which I offer. Here's what I do. This is my product. I don't offer service after 5. I don't offer service on Sunday.
Yeah.
Right? I don't offer the cheapest service. That's not what I do. I don't offer a waiting service. I don't offer a service where you come into my shop and expect me to work on it right now. That's not what I do. There are places that do that. Here, let me give you a referral.
But how often do you see shop owners and this can go either way, right? And sometimes it's like it's nuanced, it's a little bit in the middle, whatever, right? But you see the shop owner posting that they dunked on some customer that was expecting something ridiculous, and and it's some kind of snide, snarky remark, comment, reply to a review, whatever, and then you start. And they're thinking that they're going to get patted on the back, so they post it up on online, and they're like, "Yeah, everybody's going to agree with me." And then you start to see the people, the dissenters, that are like, "Well, send that customer over to me. I'll take care of them. I would have collected that money and gone and bought my family a nice steak dinner with the money I would have made on that job, and this, that, and the other." And you're like, well, hold on now. The customer's not in the right. The shop owner necessarily isn't in the right by their reply. But at the same time, it's not bending over backwards. I think you put it perfectly. It's like you go to a nice restaurant, and what's on the menu is what you can choose from. And then that's it. Because if you wanted chicken nuggets, like, don't go to the nice restaurant. You're not going to get chicken nuggets. Like, there ain't no tendies on the menu, bro. Like, you need to choose something that's on here.
Scott Palava wouldn't even show up.
So, yeah, I'm sorry, Scott. There are no tendies on here. You're going to have to choose something that's on the menu. And, yeah, we went to a nice restaurant. So, yeah, it's also buco. Sorry. Like, that's what you're going to have to eat. And you don't go to that restaurant expecting them to serve you whatever the hell you want because you're the customer. It doesn't work that way. And it shouldn't work that way within our businesses. Like, we should have an offering. And if we're not the right fit, we're not the right fit. But you have to have the confidence. Okay. Yeah, you have to have the confidence to step away.
And the problem is that when you don't step away, you're offering something that you're not specialized in, that you aren't qualified to offer, that you don't want to offer, right? So you get an attitude about it. You don't have the equipment to do it. You're not staffed properly, whatever it is. Right? And the problem is you back yourself into a corner by doing that, and nobody is happy. Right? You're not happy. The client's not happy. And everybody thinks that by saying no, they're going to upset someone. No, that's not the case. The problem is you're not setting the expectation. You're setting it after you started doing something. Well, you shouldn't ask me to do it because I don't know how to do that. Dude.
Whoa. Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah. Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces.